You know, in the spirit of daylight savings time, which is funny, completely undone from what the episode of SnappedChat was talking about, but was there ever a time when daylight savings time messed you up completely, or the most that threw off your entire schedule? The answer is actually A. I was coming back from Portland after doing a West Coast show, and oh my gosh. So first of all, the 2 hour time change, and I know that a lot of times time changes aren't too much, but you know, I just did one recently that was 6 hours, and that kind of threw me off a little bit. Sort of the sleeping schedule got back on track, but when I was there, it threw me off. But what happened was, is we did an event, and it was actually, I think it was WrestleMania weekend, and I flew back on a red-eye flight. And when I flew back on the red-eye flight, obviously there's a 2 hour time difference, and daylight savings time hit. So when I got off the plane, my whole world was completely messed up. And it's so funny, you know, because like you travel and you go from coast to coast and you do shows, and of course you're just used to it. You're just used to, like, oh, I could do a show here and then fly here and then come back, and you're just, it's whatever. Like, so many guys do that, or they come off the plane and they're jet lagged, but they still have a show to do, and you just, it's whatever. And I can also sleep on planes really well, but for some reason this messed me up. And I got back, and I remember I had to work. I think I had to work in the afternoon, which, but I was still living in St. Cloud at the time, and I drove all the way back home, and I just got home, and like the sun came up and all that stuff, or the sun was up or whatever it was, and I just felt like, in my head, I felt like I was landing at noon, at 12, and then having to drive in an hour and whatever, and then got back. I was like, I'm going to be so late. And by the time I got back home, it was like 10 o'clock, and I couldn't, and like I went and I did, my day, I went through my normal routine. I could not, for the life of me. Like, I just, it threw me off. And it was the most time where I've ever really realized that a daylight savings time, a time change, had messed up. And the spring forward thing doesn't bother me. The clock's back. And also I go into hibernation mode, which is kind of the deal. Like, not like I sleep all day, miss all my bookings and all that stuff, but this is where I'm like, as a Minnesotan, I give up and I go, all right, it's going to snow, and that's fine, and you're going to stay here till spring forward, but when we spring forward, I want it to start melting so I can go out and start enjoying the day, and so there's that. But that's just how my brain has always been wired. So there's that. So yes, the answer is A.